So yeah, thank you for joining everyone. Just keep on typing your names in the chat box, please. Yeah, and welcome to today's session. I'm sure while registering you saw that we have a sustainable finance expert and ESG consultant. So she's going to be walking us through everything related to that, breaking it down in the simplest way. And just to let you guys know, this meeting is going to be recorded. So if you want your cameras turned off, that's fine. If you want it turned on, that's equally fine as well. And I'm just going to run you through the agenda now. So yeah, we've done the introductions. I've seen a couple of names already. A lot of people from Nigeria. We have one person from Namibia. And the next thing is that we're going to be talking about the founder of the Climate Professional is going to run you through the mission, the vision of the project. And then there's going to be a little icebreaker activity, which you'll see in a minute. I'll introduce the guest speaker. The speaker is going to give a presentation, talk about everything on sustainable finance. And then while she's presenting, I'll encourage everyone to drop in any question that you may have in the chat box, please, after which we'll have the Q&A session. And then I will conclude with the closing remarks and what's next. So over to the founder now that's going to talk about the initiative, what it's about. So over to you, Femi.
Yeah, hello everyone. You're welcome to our second webinar from the ClimateProfessional Project, and we're so glad to have you, join this webinar because we know you're interested in getting to know what's going on across the globe and specifically for Africa. So I'll just be running you through a few details about the project and what we intend to do and what our goal is as a team. And very importantly, I would like you to know that we are working together to bridge climate agency gap across the Global South. We all know that the Global South is not as well at par with the rest of the world. And by Global South, some of you may ask what Global South means. Global South means countries who are, for one reason or the other, based on geography, also based on certain socio-economical indices, they are not at the same level with the developed nations of the world. So you can call them more like third world countries, or that's the category that many of the Global South nations fall into. So there is a climate revolution, there is an environmental revolution, and Africa is really, really climate vulnerable. At the same time, we lack the agency to actually begin to take actions for ourselves. So our focus area, we're looking at climate education and training. We're also looking at professional upskilling for green jobs. That is one very important strand of our work. We want to ensure that on the climate table, on the international table, many Africans also have equal rights and equal place on this table. So we are trusting that we can work together with everyone as possible to ensure that people come up to speed with what is actually happening globally. And our vision is to democratize access to climate knowledge and agency for Global South audience, and to build a globally diverse, skilled climate workforce. At the moment, right now, Africa is really not where it's supposed to be. And the vision, the aim and the goal is for us to be able to come up to speed with the necessary knowledge, with the necessary skills that we need to compete with the rest of the world. Our approach and our impact model, all these things, a huge chunk of them are still being built, and we're still working progressively to achieve some of these things. but we are looking at structured learning pathways where people can come and can be trained and as well as placed into the job market. So we're also looking at, telling local stories using global policy. We're looking at a network that compounds, having a network of people, professionals as well, who are also aiming at the same thing that you are looking for. And we are looking at strategic partnerships for all this to happen. Definitely you need partnerships. So our impact goal is to enable a new generation of professionals to participate meaningfully in climate solutions and not just observe them. I'm going to say this to us very, very particularly. Very many years ago, when the oil and gas boom began to happen in Africa, what used to happen is that the expatriates in the oil and gas, the engineers, the people who understood the science, who understood how to drill the oil and all the likes in Africa, the mining and all the likes, used to be done by expatriates. So Americans, the whites, they bring and fly down expatriates to come and do the work in Africa, even though the resources were in Africa. Why? Because Africans did not have the required skills to really carry out those jobs. So they began to marginalize us. Only after many years before Africa began to come up to stage and come up to par and to say we can do these jobs ourselves. And it is a similar situation right now, even in Africa as it stands now. There are several opportunities, there are several jobs that are going to be coming up, that are going to be showing up based on the funding that is being pumped into Africa, because Africa is climate vulnerable. Many of the climate disaster, the environmental hazards and situations that is happening all over the world, a huge chunk happens in Africa. And the time of recovery is so much and so wide. So there's a lot of funds being pumped into Africa to carry out these solutions, to carry out these projects in Africa. But the problem may be that in a couple of years or even presently, Africans are not equipped with the skills, with the knowledge, with the experience to undertake these jobs. So that is where the problem is, and that is what we are carefully building to solve, so that we have Africans who can take on climate roles, sustainability roles in Africa. The jobs are paying heavily in foreign currencies, but you have to be domiciled in Africa. So if we do not begin to build that skills gap right now, it means that as the jobs and as the market begins to grow exponentially up until 2030, 2050 and beyond, what will happen is that many persons will not be able to take on those jobs because they do not have the required skills. So that is the problem, and this is why we are doing what we are doing, working together to ensure that this skill gap, first of all, is made up for by making people aware through such webinars like this. It is when you are aware that you can begin to take actions and to begin to know where the opportunities lie for you to begin to work towards them, to position yourself as they begin to open up in the years to come. I don't know if that makes sense to anybody. That is actually why you are here. So we're organizing these webinars monthly to make sure that you are informed, you are aware, and you can then begin to channel your path towards seizing these opportunities as the years go by. On to the next slide. About myself, I'm by privilege the founder, and I have this vision to close the climate and opportunity gap by building a globally accessible, practical, and career-driven climate education system. So the tool is that you need to be aware first that these things exist. These opportunities exist, these skills exist, and with that awareness, you are able to build the necessary agency for you to begin to take action. Action locally, action from where you are to where you are supposed to be, or where you can be, taking full responsibility for your environment. By privilege, I work in the United Kingdom, and I work with a climate solutions charity as a climate and sustainability professional, and I've been active in policy influencing, aligning local climate narratives with UK government priorities. And I'm also experienced working on carbon accounting projects and organizational net zero planning. I am very passionate about this, and that's actually why we are doing this, to help as many other Africans, begin to look into this. This is the new oil, this is the new tech. And based on the funding, I'm very sure we're going to be learning a lot from the speaker tonight. Based on the funding that the international community is putting together for the development of Africa with regards to climate and sustainability, Africans by Africans, we need to begin to position ourselves rightly for this, and that is actually why we are doing all of this. I am going to be sharing with us something very quickly. Yes, these are two things I want us, before I allow the moderator to introduce the speaker. The opportunity on your left on your screen is by the World Resource Institute. I'm just trying to give you a practical implication of what we're trying to do. This opportunity, this company, I shared something similar in the last webinar. This is called the World Resource Institute, and the position they are hiring for, or they hired for recently, was the Climate Associates. So this person's responsibility is going to be working across climate programs, climate energy transition in Africa. And guess what? This opportunity is in South Africa. This person that is going to be the Climate Associate is not going to be from Europe. It's not going to be from America. It's not going to be from the United Kingdom. When you click on this job opportunity, this person is stated he has to be in South Africa, and it just closed at the beginning of this month. So I'm just bringing this to us to know the kind of opportunities that are going to be coming up. And if you check the salary scale, it is telling you that it's competitive salary up until $125,000 in a year, depending on location. If you also go to the job details in itself, you're also going to say that it is dependent on your experience. So if you have been building in this space and you are able to defend yourself for 5 years, 6 years, 10 years, the people who begin to develop in this space get this kind of opportunities. That is one thing that I want us to have at the back of our minds. And these kind of jobs are going to be opening up. It is very, very sure. They are going to be opening up until 2030 and beyond, because of the climate investment and priorities of the United Nations. On the right is something happening presently in Nigeria. Nigeria as a case study now. We have Nigeria risking being locked out of a rapidly growing pool of global institutional capital worth more than $120 trillion, unless companies accelerate compliance with emerging sustainability disclosure standards, according to the new report by Advisory. This is a news report, and I had to screen grab it so that we can just be aware of what is actually going on. Let me break it down. There is something called ESG disclosures, environment, social, and governance disclosures in the international community. And by 2028, it is going to become mandatory for every financial institution, every listed organization in Nigeria to begin to comply and to file these reports every year. And what this means is that they would need ESG professionals. They would need accounting people who are not just doing what is this accounting term? Balancing of figures alone, but they are also talking about the climate risk of investing. And the importance of this report is that investors, people who want to put money in your business, for example, you run a company or an organization, people who want to invest in your business. For example, Dangote now, if a foreigner wants to invest in Dangote in Nigeria or in Africa, they would need the files, they would need the books, the ESG reportings, the ESG reports to say how well is this organization able to stand the impact of climate risk in 10 years to come. How is this organization going to stand the impact of environmental hazards in few years to come? If those reports are not carefully written and submitted as evidences for investment, investors will be boycotting Nigerian companies. Investors will say this is not a safe place for us to invest, and they will go away with their money. So it's now mandatory now that for every banks, for every serious organization, they need to begin to file these sustainability disclosures by January 2028. So it means that a young professional now that begins to pick certifications in these areas, a young professional that begins to read, that begins to understand what it means to take up these positions now, will become highly sought after in the next few months. Because banks, many corporate organizations will be racing to be able to meet up with this deadline. If you go to Europe, if you go to other parts of the world, many other organizations are already implementing these laws. So these are the kind of opportunities that are opening up. So imagine if you are an accountant right now and you are beginning to think that it's not just about naira and dollar. It is about how does climate impact, how does sustainability, how does the environmental impact of our business, how does it affect our balances, how does it affect our account statements? And you are also beginning to think, you already know what the climate situation is, and you are beginning to also think of how you can position yourself. In the next couple of months, what will happen is that your value in the job market is going to begin to escalate, and you are going to be paid heavily as those sanctions begin to take effect from 2028. So these are the kind of opportunities that the climate situation that we find ourselves are opening up. And I'll always say, climate problem is general. Everybody is facing a climate problem. In fact, in the UK here, this week, we've had it very, very hot. We've had temperatures, extreme temperatures, to the point that even children in schools are being sent home because what? It is very, very hot as against the normal weather. So it is causing disruptions all over the world. And organizations, people, young professionals who begin to see this opportunity not just as a disappointing situation, but as an opportunity for economic empowerment. You need to see it as a point where you need to cash in on and begin to prepare yourself for the future. So I'm just going to stop here at this point, and I believe the speaker that we have today is going to do more justice to these particular issues. We are giving this opportunity for the climate finance, those who are in financial sector, in the ESG environment, to actually have the floor today. There are several other sessions we are going to also be committing to, and we are going to be highlighting different aspects. Sustainability and climate is as broad, just like the same way we have tech, and people can be doing several millions of things in tech. It's the same way even in sustainability and climate. There are several aspects you can go into, and you just need to have the right information. And that is why we're actually organizing these webinars, so that you can be abreast with the information, and then you can be able to make the right decision. So I think I'll be stopping there for now, and yes, over to you, Beokis.
Yeah, thank you so much. That was really comprehensive. So without wasting time, we're going to have this little icebreaker activity, and it's really simple. What I want you guys to do is, in the chat box, just type your answer to the question. So if you had, let's say, $1 billion to invest in Africa's climate future, which one area would you put it in? So I'd like you guys to type your answers in the chat box. let's say I'll give you 5 minutes to do this. Yeah, so just type the answer. Whatever comes to your mind. Is it solar energy? Okay, I'm seeing environmental education, clean energy, renewable energy. Is it carbon market, green energy bond? Whatever it is, just whatever comes to your mind. Type it in the chat box. Few more minutes for this, and it doesn't have to be perfect. Just whatever comes to your mind. Um, yeah, green bonds and capital. Awesome. Environmental education. Yeah, awareness is really important at this time. Reforestation and carbon project. Really interesting answers. Carbon markets. Okay. So just a minute more and we'll move on to the next agenda. Okay. Reforestation and carbon projects. Lovely answers. So we'll just move on to introducing the guest speaker now, since that's the main agenda for today. So in our midst today we have Ruby Uche. She's a sustainable finance and ESG consultant, and she's going to be talking us through everything related to this. Yeah, she's a sustainable finance professional and licensed ESG manager, working at the intersection of transition finance, blended finance structuring, and impact measurement across sub-Saharan Africa. She holds an MSc in Sustainable Finance and Accounting from the University of Sussex. Her experience spans net zero consulting for UK corporate, sustainable finance, and ESG consulting for Africa's largest gender-lens blended finance vehicle, and capacity building and project program management. She publishes evaluative research on Nigeria's just transition financing, gender lens investing, and carbon accounting at Capital and Climate. She serves on the board of YASIF, that's the Young Advocates for a Sustainable and Inclusive Future. Her work also focuses on sustainable finance and accounting, carbon accounting, ESG reporting, and climate policy capability across Africa. So Ruby does a whole lot. Now, there's an emoji where you can give her a round of applause, just to welcome her. Thank you. I can see the applauses already. So I'll hand over the microphone now to Ruby to give her own presentation. Thank you.
Hello, thank you, Keith. I hope I got the name correctly. Good evening, everybody. It's always weird when I hear foreign people introduce, because I'm like, feels like I'm watching my life play out, right in front of me. I never get used to it. But thank you so much. Thanks, everyone. For some reason, I have a bit of an issue with turning on my camera, but I'm hoping that before the end of the meeting, I might have the opportunity to do that. But notwithstanding, I would get right into it and also share my screen. My name is Ruby Uche, as Keith rightly said. And yes, I currently work in the sustainable finance space in Lagos, Nigeria, handling projects all across Africa. But my background, it wasn't something different. So in 2024, I just woke up one morning and decided that, I wanted to do something different. I felt like we had a much bigger issue at hand, which the founder of ClimateProfessional has rightly said. We have a big problem at hand, the problem of climate change, and nobody's exempted from it, most especially Africa. Somehow Africa seems to be one of those continents that would be facing the brunt of climate change. And as such, it's become very important that we all put hands together to save our planet, save our globe, save our continent. And so in 2024, I was working as a project manager at a UK firm, but I was in Lagos and I was working from here. And I just decided that I think I see the future, and I think the future is all about sustainability. And I wanted to position myself to be, in that space so that I can be where things are happening, make a change, make a difference. And probably maybe one day my name might go down in history as well as one of the pioneers, people who saved Africa due to their contributions in climate change. And I asked myself, what can I do then? Because I was in tech, and tech is worlds apart. It is quite, it's far, and it has almost little to nothing to do with the whole history of climate change. And I decided that at that point in time, my best bet would be to pursue a master's and use that as a pivot into the industry. Of course, now in hindsight, there are other ways to go about it, which I'll be sharing with you today as part of my slides. But at the time, with the information that was available to me, I thought that was the best alternative. And even right now, I don't regret it. It's just that there are other ones now that I've discovered, which I'll share. So I decided to study abroad. At the time, I had no means of funding that, obviously. I was working for a UK company, but they were paying me in Naira. So what that meant was that my income was nowhere near sufficient to pursue the plan that I had, which was to study abroad. But as God would have it, and as, thanks to opportunities that are now extending to the global south, there are tons of funding available for people who know what they're doing in Africa and who wants to study abroad, and who have what it takes to be recipients of such funding. I chased after one with all my heart and with lots of prayers. The Chivening Scholarship, some of you might know about it, probably one of the most difficult scholarships in the world to get. And God gave it to me, because I don't want to say I won it, because God gave it to me. I traveled to the UK. I studied my master's in sustainable finance and accounting, and that was where I made the transition. So anyways, I have a slide in my presentation where I talk a little bit of how I moved, so I won't say too much here. I'll move to the next, we'll go right into it. Okay, so as of now, we have so much statistic being put out there about what Africa needs, what Africa doesn't need. There's a lot of rave around Africa, especially in the investor community. It's everywhere. But the one I settled for today is that as of now, according to Climate Policy Initiative, Africa needs about $277 billion a year in climate finance. And it's currently receiving less than 12% of that. So that means that there's a more than 80% deficit in funding. And in the last few years, yes, I must admit that there's been a significant inflow of capital compared to what it used to be. There's been a lot of rave, in the global north, which is, so when I say global north, I'll give you examples like the United Kingdom, European countries that are doing, in quotes, much better, economy-wise. There are lots of investors there that, for different reasons, have decided to focus on Africa and, help Africa in its battle against climate change. When I say for different reasons, I mean there are investors who are doing it because they want to feel good. There are investors who want to pump money into Africa because they feel like that's the next big thing. And then there are investors who are truly concerned about Africa and want to put their money to good use. But for whatever reason, we appreciate the influx, and we're not pointing fingers. But the fact is that Africa is a huge market when it comes to climate change and climate finance thereof. It's currently in public eye, it's in the spotlight. And that's why we think that it's really important that Africans take advantage of that and position themselves to actually benefit from that and be instruments in making sure that those funding coming in actually does what it needs to do. So in that light, we also have projections that by 2030 there would be more than 3.3 million jobs, green jobs, that would be created as a result of the funding that is coming in, as a result of the money being pushed into Africa. 3.3 million jobs will be created. That statistic was given by FSD Africa, which is a major household name, if I can put it that way, when it comes to finance in Nigeria. So you can take their word to the bank, basically. So I just wanted to show everyone what brought most of you here, just so that we have to see how broad our interests are, and see also at a snapshot the various aspects of sustainable finance or sustainability in general. So for some of you, you're still not sure where you want to be, which is fine, absolutely fine. So you want a little bit of everything. For some, it's the carbon markets and carbon finance. A very interesting field. We'll talk about that. For some, it's sustainability disclosure. Sustainability disclosure happens to be one of my favorites, and it's exactly what the convener showed you earlier when we talked about ESG disclosure. There's impact investing, people who are investing for the greater good, and climate venture capital. We have people who are interested in green bonds and sustainable debt, blended finance and development finance, climate risk, project finance for renewable energy, and ESG analysis, ratings, and reportings. So what I tried to do was to make sure that everyone here goes home with something. I tried to cover as much as I could, whilst leaving you enough room for curiosity and, of course, enough room to build on whatever you learned. So I'm hoping that I can plant a seed that will then grow, into something much bigger. So I'm going to take you through quickly how climate capital actually flows. So from the global north, or from Europe, or from the United States, or from wherever it is, how does this money actually get into Africa? So we have institutions called multilateral institutions and development finance institutions. To make it easy to understand, I would mention household names like World Bank, which I'm sure everybody here has heard of at some point. The IFC, AFDB, ADB, these are institutions that shape the future of countries. These are really household giant names that make a difference when you hear them. So they are the ones that aggregate the fund. So for the World Bank, say 100 countries come together and put together money. Germany, US, UK, as many. So for example, World Bank would be like a custodian. So World Bank has, say, $500 million sitting with them that they want to push to Africa. So they are the custodians of those money. They're the ones that can speak to countries and say, oh, Germany, we need some money from you. We want to help Africa. Germany will say, okay, World Bank, you can have $5 million. They get from France and get from everywhere else, and they then direct that money to where it needs to go. So that fund originates from there. And then this World Bank will say, how do we share this money? How do we distribute this money in a way that it actually makes impact? They can decide to give it in form of grants. Grants, when I say grants, I mean non-refundable funds. So they can give, when you hear grants, it's just like someone dashing you money. Yeah. They can also do loans, because sometimes, not every time will they give grants. They could give loans, but the difference is that the difference between the loan that they would give you and the loan that you would get, for example, from purely commercial sources, would be that because they have the concept of blended finance. I don't know if anyone has heard of it before. So blended finance, I'll quickly explain, basically is getting finance from different sources. So it's like, I'll give an example that's relatable to everyone. Currently in Nigeria, apologies if there are other people from different countries, but I'm Nigerian and that's like the only, it's my immediate environment. So pardon me if I reference Nigeria a lot. It's just what I know and the environment that I know. But you can always relate it to wherever you're from. And as long as it's Africa, we're all good. So currently, I think the interest rates, if you want to, as a business, as an individual, if you're interested in borrowing money, it's be about 30%. Now that is high. In fact, it is ridiculously high because a business that gets funding at an interest rate of 30% means that you already have finished your profits, whatever profits you're going to make. It just makes it really difficult for businesses to thrive. It makes it difficult for people to access finance. And as such, the government can come in and say, okay, we understand that the interest rate is high. What we can do is we can gather funds from different sources. When I say different sources, I mean funds from commercial people who are purely profit driven, like commercial banks. They will give you money at the rates that will benefit them, right? But then there are also another set of people who we call philanthropists, or will I say catalytic funders, people who are willing to take a little bit less interest just because that money is being used for the greater good. So it's like someone saying, normally I'll lend you money for at 30%, but because I want to make sure that you succeed, because I want to make sure that you're not the business doesn't close down, or for any other benevolent reason that they might want to give out the money, as long as it's tied to some form of impact, they might say, okay, I will go down to about 15. I'll still collect interest, of course, because that's how I survive, but I'm not going to take it at the normal market rate. So if we have 2 or 3 people like that, combined with the people that are going full on commercial, what you realize is that when you put it together, the average interest rate will reduce. So when you blend all those sources, those finances from different sources, you're able to get a reduced interest rates. So that's what blended finance is. So blended finance vehicles are basically funds that comprises of funding from different places that has managed to reduce the cost of interest. So those are concessional loans, that's I explained earlier, loans that are given by people who are willing to go a little bit lower and to get a little bit less profit and make more impact. We have first loss capital. There are people who are willing to say, I know that this business is risky. I know that Africa is a very risky market, which we know because most emerging markets are risky markets, by the way, because there's so many uncertainties, political instability, there is insecurity, there's high interest rate, there's high inflation rates. All of these things contribute to increasing the risk profiles of emerging markets like Nigeria, Africa, and all that. So there are people who will say, yes, I know that all these risks exist, but I'm still willing to put in my capital, combine my capital, my money. And if anything happens for any reason, and this money goes in and doesn't come out, I can take the loss. Or they'll say, pay every other person and pay me last. So if you have 10 people that came together, the first loss capital investor can say, I get it, I'm willing to let go of my money, take the risk. If anything happens and the project does not do as much, or the returns doesn't come as much, pay every other person and then pay me last. I'll take the first loss. I'll be the one to take the loss, basically. So yeah, I'll move from there. So I'm just giving you different ways by which this money actually flows into Africa. Then we have, when the money actually comes in, who is going to receive the money? Fund managers, they're the ones that, the private equity funds, which I work in a private equity fund. I think there's a slide where I talk about it in more detail, so I'll not go too deep into that. But we have fund managers, they are the ones who receive that fund, and they're the ones who are the custodian of that fund. And they decide where that fund goes to. So most fund managers are always in Africa, because you have to be in the terrain to understand. They can't just give the money. You can't be a fund manager for a fund for Nigeria or Africa and you are in another country. You have to be on site, you have to be on the ground. So most of these fund managers are on site, and they know the reality of the country. They know who needs help. They know where to divert the money to and all of that. So where are the most common places where fundings would usually go? In the country that I'm from, Nigeria, it's a very SME driven economy. I think about 90% of businesses in Nigeria are SME. So it's basically an SME driven country. Even most of our GDP is getting from there. So it's a huge part of the country. And as such, there's a high likelihood that most of the money that come in will be directed through there. So MSMEs can be in any field, but as long as they're in business, medium business, small business, large business, they are an MSME. And breaking it further down, you have maybe businesses in renewable energy. When they asked where you would invest in earlier, I saw a lot of people saying renewable energy, and it's not surprising because that's like the hot cake when it comes to projects that would be likely to receive funding. We're looking at renewable energy. There's one that's also coming up, green real estate. So sustainable cities and sustainable building and sustainable housing, whatever term you want to use, but that's it. And then we have agriculture as well. I am surprised that nobody mentioned agriculture, but then I understand it. I understand why, but yeah, maybe you guys should not push agriculture to the side. There's something called climate smart agriculture, a little bit different from the conventional agriculture, but yeah, because agriculture is also one of the main lifelines of Nigeria. So I believe that it's also a field that will receive attention in the coming months or coming years, as the case may be. And then we have impact and reporting. So when that money is being put into these businesses and these projects and these communities and whatever the case may be, there has to be, somebody gives you money, you have to be able to report it. You have to account for it. You have to talk about what that money is being used for, who is receiving the money, and what the impact is, of that money that's going in. So that's where impact and reporting comes in. In other places, they will call it monitoring and evaluation, whatever the case may be. There has to be a reporting process that goes at the back of that. There I put some frameworks that are popular in this field, like IRIS Plus, like TCFD, GRI, ISSB, 2X Challenge, SDG mapping. I don't know if these slides will get to you guys so that you can do your further research, but you can also take screenshots or you can write it down if you want to do more research on each of these things that I've mentioned. However, I think it will still come up in other slides, so I'll have the opportunity to explain. If you look below this list that I just went through, you see that I put some things in yellow, like policy and MRV specialists. So at this multilateral and DFIs, like World Bank, they need people who are able to interpret policies, right? So if they're looking at Africa, they need people who are able to map out policies and be able to account for them, right? So we have people they make use of a lot of policy specialists, and in the blended finance vehicles as well, when they're structuring that finance. So I work in a blended finance project right now, and so they need people who can structure it. So they need people who can say, okay, if we need $10 million today, how many percent of that $10 million need to come as grant? How many percent of that $10 million need to come as commercial capital? That's commercial capital at the going market rate. How many percentage of that 10 million needs to come from catalytic investors, that investors who are willing to take a little bit more risk, for us to be able to end up with an interest rate of 10%. So there's a lot of mathematics that go into that. You need people who are specialists in finance, blended finance, which is what I do for a living right now. So there's a lot of roles around that. People who understand finance, who understand debt, cost of capital, who understand sourcing deals, which is the next one I'm going to, deal sourcers. People who know where to go and ask for money, because this money exists in the hand of a select few of people. But then some people don't even know where to look. Some people who know, okay, if we go to BII today, BII is currently sponsoring such projects. You can go to them and ask them for funding. Then we have ESG analysts, who are people who, when you get the money, you have to be able to, like the convener said, you have reports. Say Dangote has a sustainability report. You need an ESG analyst, somebody that will look at the environmental, social, and government dimension of the business and be able to, report it, to account for it. So there is also project finance managers. When the money comes in, somebody obviously has to be in charge of drawing the financial model, making sure that the project goes according to plan, the financing is, going properly. Then you have the impact measurement and reporting leads. So if you're telling your investor that the money you gave us, this is where it's going, somebody has to be on ground that can do what they call accountability, that can account for the impact that is being recorded as a result of the fund that was let's say disbursed in this case. anyways. But just examples of roles that are roles that will come up just by the way the capital is flowing into the country at every step of the way. So I give you more examples here. I already mentioned some. These are some of the roles some of us don't even know exist. We have blended finance structurer, which I have explained. We have ESG analyst, which I've talked about, someone that evaluates, the social governance and environmental performance of the investments. They will now produce rating. They'll say, oh, this investment has an A rating, sustainability wise, which means maybe it gives more impact sustainability wise, or reduces carbon emission. That screens portfolios, advises investment committee. So you sit on an investment committee, and the only thing you're talking about is how this funding impacts the climate. That's your own job. Now we have climate risk specialists. So one of the things that when you're talking about sustainable finance that always comes up is risks, right? We are able to price and account for risk. So you are telling someone that if you don't go green, there's a high chance that you'll be left behind, because everybody is going towards the green path. And if your business says no, you don't want to go green, there's a high chance that you'll be left behind. Customers will not want to buy your product. For example, while I was still in the UK, I remember that it's such a big thing there that when you go into a supermarket to get things, you see people pick 2 cartons of the same, 2 different brands of the same product, and look at it and say, this one is not, they didn't write that they are using, they are recycling their products, they are recycling their cartons, or they didn't write that they are vegetarians or stuff like that. So it has gotten to a point where even before customers pick up your product, they look to make sure that is this person doing the right thing? Is this person even making any efforts towards sustainability? So you risk losing customers. There's also climate risk. Like the host was saying, I'm so happy that I'm not in the UK right now, because it's so hot. I think my friends were complaining about 40-something degrees. You won't understand how hot it is until you experience it. And it's not good at all, because the UK is not built for such hot weather. The UK typical house is built to insulate. So what that means is that you are basically cooking inside that heat. That is a climate risk, because things like, I think it was Venezuela, I was reading the news yesterday, that is experiencing serious natural disaster. I think earthquakes and all, like people have been dead, so many people dead, businesses destroyed. All of these are direct impacts of climate risk. But there needs to be somebody who can sit in the bank and tell the bank, you must price these risks into your finances, your financial models. If not, you risk, being left behind. You need a specialist for that. Someone that can be able to translate this risk into financial financial costs, if I can put it that way, so that you can factor it into what you do at the bank. You also have green bond specialists, people who are able to, put bonds together for a green project, put bonds together, and also put a framework around how these bonds will be, the proceeds from these bonds will be used, how it will be reported, and many other things. There's the next slide, carbon market analysts, people who work on, so the carbon market relies a lot on compliance frameworks, people who, if you are saying you have a carbon project, it has to be verified that it is truly is not call it greenwashing, where people say something is sustainable and is not end up not being sustainable. So there needs to be a team that does project verification, someone that works on credit origination, where the money is going to come from, how is the trading going to be done, how is the offsetting going to be, who is going to take off the proceeds. There's a lot that goes into the carbon market, and as such, you need people who are experts in this field. You have, sorry, I need to move my laptop. So you have impact measurement specialists, I've explained before, development finance analysts. Those are self-explanatory, but these are some of the roles that can begin to let's say pique your interest, to just get to know more about. There's something for everyone, and that's one thing about the beauty of sustainability. It's such a field, such a relatable field, that no matter what walk of life you're from, there's always something that there's something that you could do with your skill set, which I will explain later. Now, where are these jobs? It's easy to say there's jobs, but where do I start looking? So what I did when I was working on this is to assume that this is for people who don't know where to start. Just because I know that there are quite some people who are maybe just finishing school and are looking to go into the sustainability space, or there are people who are actually experts, they're experienced, but not in sustainability, and they realize that they want to be in that space, but they don't know where to start. So this is quite basic. We have, so for the DFIs that I mentioned earlier, you have banks like African Development Bank, which you know, World Bank, IFC, Green Climate Funds, FMOs, you know, GGGI, British International Investment. These are multilateral institutions that have a lot of their portfolio in Africa. So most of these people are listed here. They are very crazy about Africa, and as such, they continue to recruit talents from Africa for African-based deals. Then we have fund managers, like Alicia Capital, Aroa Capital, Helios Investment Partners. There are some fund managers that are not fund backed, Leapfrog Investments. I just gave you a bit so that you can then do further research, but I just said to list some out here so that you can, know where to start looking from. Now we had advisory and consulting. So all of us, I'm sure most of us know the big fours, McKinsey, KPMG, Ernst & Young, PwC, and the likes. Each of these consulting giants or advisory giants in Africa have sustainability teams that their work is to basically do things sustainability related, right? So it's a good place to look if you're looking for people who are looking for climate finance talents. You can start from each of these places and go further in your search. Next slide is talking about what are the entry routes. So after all said and done, where do I start from? What do I need to do as a fresh graduate or as someone who just finished school, or someone that is still studying and is just trying to do the background work to make sure that by the time I'm done studying, I'm ready to launch into the sustainability space or sustainable finance space? The first one is building the technical flow. Of course, before you put yourself out there, you have to make sure that you know something. You may not know it all, but you must have enough basic knowledge to at least spring from. So you can take some courses. I put some here. For example, the CGEM is a course that I took in February. The full meaning is Certified Green Card ESG Manager. It's a global course, so it's not dependent on your location. You can take it from wherever you are in the world. In my cohort, I think we had about 200 people from different countries: UK, US, Africa, anywhere. But even though I had done a master's, I just felt like I needed more knowledge when it comes to ESG. I decided to pay for the course and I decided to take it. But if you are saying, oh no, I don't have money to pay for course, which I understand if you're a fresh graduate, luckily for you, there are so many free education platforms online, like Coursera, like EDX, that you can take free courses, just free trainings on ESG, on climate change, just to familiarize yourself. Nothing serious. It's not a certification or a license, but at least it gives you begin to build your technical capability whilst you find your way in. So build your technical flow by all means, know your subject matter. Then number two is, once you've done that, once you feel confident enough to be able to stand your ground, you can then get close to live deals. So live deals are projects that are currently going on in maybe fund managers. For example, there are internships. People like AFDB, they would constantly put out internships. People like World Bank, even like Nigerian-based VCs as well. They would put out, we're hiring for interns. And of course, because you're starting out, you need to be very comfortable with the idea of starting from internship level. I know that especially for the experienced one among us. Sorry, someone saying something. Hello.
I think we must have been.
Okay, so especially for the experienced one among us, I'll be a little bit.
Ruby.
Yeah.
Sorry to just cut you. Mercy, do you have a question or Is there a problem? I see your hands continually raised. Okay. You can continue, please.
Okay, all right. So I was saying that, what was I saying? Sorry, I lost my train of thoughts. Yeah, so I was saying that for the experienced ones among us, there's this, what I call it, dilemma of, with all my experience, I have 10 years experience, I have 12 years experience. It's going to be a little bit difficult for me to, start at internship levels, to start building my career. But that's the thing with transition. You may not, sometimes you might be lucky enough to get, roles where you transition directly if you have transferable skills. But for the young ones, and especially for the ones who really, really are determined to get into this space, be open to internships. They're one of the fastest ways to get into organizations like this, like fund managers, sustainability consulting firms. Like I said, just get as close to them as possible. Apply, build the network as much as you can. Live on LinkedIn. I cannot say this enough. You have to live on LinkedIn, because LinkedIn is such an underrated tool for career professionals, especially when you're trying to make transitions. And that will lead me to my third point, which is build a public track record. So before somebody can actually take a chance on you and hire you, or before somebody can take a chance on you and give you a job, don't wait until you get that. Start building your portfolio, a public track record. For example, on LinkedIn, write. If you finish taking a course on climate change, write about it, write what you learned. You don't have to be working in a fund to be able to analyze a deal. Yes, somebody invited you, fine. Pick the reports from that deal, because they'll most likely publish a report. For example, if AFDB announces that they just signed a $500 million fund to Africa for renewable energy, pick it up, read about it. Tell, in your own words, express your thoughts. Do you think this is, what do you think about this? Or what would AFDB have done better if you learned that much? Make a comment. When they post on their LinkedIn page, go on the page, make a comment. I don't mean comment like, oh, well done. I mean like a comment that, a well thought through comment. People get to see you. You get to, take your own stakes in people's minds, so that by the time, you're ready to apply, your name is already out there. So people can also go to LinkedIn and look at, let me see what this person has been up to. Yes, this person may not have live experience, but, how much do they know? Where is the only place that they can check? LinkedIn. I don't think anybody will go to your Instagram page to check what you've done. So really, really, if there's anything I would hope to get from today's meeting, would be to expose you to the capability of LinkedIn. My jobs, most of the jobs that I've gotten so far, okay, I won't say most, but some of the decisions that I've made that has really taken me really far, most of them came from LinkedIn. I can't begin to count how many opportunities that I've had access to just by, being on LinkedIn. How many people I've met. For example, the convener of this program, I don't think I've met him physically, but we're very good friends on LinkedIn because of how, we interact. We met on LinkedIn, I think, and since then we've kept in, contact. He posts on LinkedIn. I learn a lot. I post, he comments. That is how you build a network of people that you don't know where that person is going to be tomorrow. They could be the one that would, introduce you to a company that's hiring. So please take advantage of LinkedIn. I beg you. And like I said, be open to applying for junior roles, and then you're able to climb up the ranks. So for now, I'm talking about, this is specifically for people who have experience, for people who are looking to transition. They're not just starting their career, they're looking to transition. To say, so are you saying that all of the 10 years I've worked in banking is useless? I have to start from scratch? No. So what I did was to map possible career paths and where those experiences would best fit into. So I'll start with banking. So maybe you work as a banker for 10 years, 5 years. You will be very useful as a climate risk specialist. You don't have to start from scratch, right? So if you can start looking for roles in climate risk. I'm sure if you go on LinkedIn and you type climate risk specialist, you see a ton of them. They believe that your experience in banking, your experience in financial analysis, your experience in building financial models, all of them will come in handy when you're working as a climate risk specialist. So that's a good springboard to start from. So if you have experience in audits, in accounting, that reporting skill, because it's basically reporting, being able to report, is very useful in ESG assurance and reporting. So Dangote can call you and say, we are hiring an ESG assurance and reporting specialist, so someone that can audit our sustainability achievements, someone that can audit how much we spent on sustainability, someone that can audit all the efforts that we've made and the impact, and put it into a way that investors can read and understand. That's something. There's law as well. Yes, people that create people that put policies in place, regulatory compliance. If you're working in compliance, you're working in law, there's space for you in sustainable finance. Because yes, there are people who do the actual finance work, but then finance needs policy, finance needs framework. There are people who, for every deal, yes, before any deal is signed, there's like documentations, right? There are policies that that uphold those deals. So you are very much needed. If you have experience in law, in compliance, you'll be needed at funds, you'll be needed in DFIs. You just need to know how to explain to them that, okay, I have experience in law, and this is how I think it can translate into sustainable finance. And they know as well, but you need to be able to, that value added, you need to be able to state your case as to why your previous experience, existing skills is a good launch pad for you to join them, because you're bringing in skills and then obviously adding more. Then there's management consulting. This is where you see, this is where I mentioned like KPMG, PwC. You can be a sustainability advisor. So your role would be using that your experience in consulting to consult for firms. So KPMG can hire you as a sustainability advisor or sustainability consultant, and your job would be to take on other firms, help them if they have a sustainability project, if their plan is, we want to start doing our ESG reporting, you're able to walk them through, hold their hands, just like any normal, traditional, conventional consulting, but this time just consulting for ESG or for sustainability. There's project finance, that is directly transferable into green infrastructure finance. A company might want to invest in solar and they need somebody who is skilled in project finance. Your skill is exactly the same skill that's needed. It's just that this time around, it's just financing for green. Then there's equity research analyst, and your skill in research, your skill in equities, investment, commodities are very much transferable into the ESG investment analyst space. Because like I said, at the end of the day, the finance is still the finance. The only difference is the perspective of ESG and sustainability and how that investment impacts climate change, how it impacts sustainability. So it's not like you're doing something totally different. It's just that and a little bit more, that and a little layer of sustainability on top of it. So these are some examples. The list is not exhaustive, but it goes on and on, but I just thought to give you a few that just shows you where you can begin to look depending on what part of this category that you fall under. So the convener talked a lot about why being on the ground in Africa is a competitive advantage, because I know that Africa is going through the transition, things are hard, and some of us would rather be anywhere but here. And it's understandable. It's not a bad thing to want to be in a better environment. But you know how they say, if life gives you lemon, to make lemonade out of it. So if you're already in Africa on the ground, why not get something that only somebody in Africa can get? You're already here. You have the advantage of location in this case. Take advantage of it. Even if you intend to jackpot at some point, whilst you're still here, you don't know what can happen. So take advantage of the fact that you're in Africa. Learn as much as you can when it comes to sustainable finance in Africa, Africa's problems, Africa's sustainability targets. Equip yourself with as much information as possible. Why? Because number one, DFIs will pay for contextual intelligence. So what the convener was talking about earlier was contextual intelligence. That's what I call it. Because you have to be there are some things that you would not know unless you are on the ground. And these DFIs, these people, they are outside. Yes, they can read about Africa, they understand, they hear the news, but there's nothing like, last mile down to the market. down to the traders, down to the community. Someone who understands the local regulatory environment, someone who understands the informal economy, how it works, someone who understands political risk, who knows APC and PDP and how what will happen to Nigeria if one wins and one does not win. In Kenya, in Ghana, is extremely valuable. You cannot replace them with a London analyst, somebody sitting behind a desk in London, and you can't tell me that person will know more about the local Nigeria or Kenya or Ghana than someone who's on the ground. So they are willing to pay a premium for contextual intelligence. There's also
yeah. We're running short of time. Sorry, so if you could just round up in like 5 minutes.
Okay, great.
Yeah, the meeting
all right, that's fine.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, so there's regulatory fluency as well. So read, like I said, read as much as you can on the CBN, FIRS, NERC, SEC. Sorry, I won't be able to go deep anymore, but just as much as you can look at the local institutions that govern finance in Nigeria. You know, it's a rare competency. Look at deal flows. You know, go on Eventbrite, search for finance events happening in Lagos, finance events happening in Nairobi. You will see a lot. Just go, attend them, meet people, get to expand your knowledge base, right? And yeah, that way you would get as much as you can from being in Africa and turn that into a competitive advantage rather than, you know, seeing it as a liability. So put this at the back of your mind. This what I call it, words: TCFD, ISSB, GRI, CSRD, GCF. These are, I picked from different sectors or different what I call it, niches, that you can read up on and choose which one you want to, you know, really focus on, because you can't be jack of all trades, master of none. So look at each of these, look for the ones that you think are more closely suited to what you're currently doing, or the ones that pique your interest the most, and become expert in each of these frameworks. These are all frameworks that I think will be good for you to, you know, start looking at them. These are the things that you mention in your CV or your LinkedIn post, and you say, oh, this person knows what they're doing. You know, so these are vocabularies that can separate you from the noise. So how do you become visible? I mentioned this a bit before. Publish your thoughts on LinkedIn, comment with substance, do case studies, you know, find a public transaction, find a deal, find a grant, find an investment, write a breakdown of it on LinkedIn. You know, use the language of the industry. When you're making posts on LinkedIn, use as much of this language as possible, because that's how people know that you know what you're doing. Write articles. If you go to my LinkedIn page, you see that I have a couple of them. When you're not doing anything, when you're, you know, you have time on your hands, just pick up your pen, do some research, make sure that what you're saying is right and credible, publish away. It doesn't cost you anything. The more you have, the more you build your portfolio, and that helps you become really visible. So, the hard truth, location bias is real, right? Things are changing now, like I said. The international market is becoming more interested in the African market, but there are some applications you make, they'll tell you, oh, we can't do anything with you because, you know, you're in Africa or whatever. There's a location bias, there will always be. Or like we said, is to focus on the good and ignore the negatives. Whilst there are people who are saying, oh, we don't want someone in Africa, there are people who are saying we want people in Africa. So take advantage of that location bias. Focus your attention on people who are actually interested in having people on ground. And whilst we say gather knowledge, realize that there's something called certifications arms race, where you are taking courses everywhere, here and there, just so that you can feel like you're doing something. But nothing beats actually getting your hands dirty, you know, doing something. So while certifications are good, make sure that you don't just, all you do is just amass certifications just because certifications without hands-on experience is not really going to give you much. So as well, try to look for a niche that you would focus on. Don't just do, oh, you're just an ESG expert nowhere, right? We have an AI is coming out. Some of these roles, even in ESG, are also being automated. So try to find something to specialize in and stay deep. Don't just stay at the surface level. Your network is your deal. Like I mentioned earlier, is who you know. Sometimes all about who you know, not what you know. So try as much as possible to build networks on LinkedIn. The people you connect with could be the people that will refer you tomorrow. So try and build your network. Quickly, I found somebody on LinkedIn that talked about how he did an analysis on 50 career transitions, and he realized that 81% of people who move into green jobs bring prior green skills. So you see that that's almost everyone. Nobody is starting, only about 19% is starting from scratch. What are those skills? Communication and storytelling. If you are good in telling stories, people need you to help them publish their ESG reports. People need you to help them talk about their ESG impact. Stakeholder engagements, project management, industry knowledge, strategy and problem solving. These are some of the skills that people were able to carry forward from their previous roles in finance, in consulting, in engineering, in media, in law, policy, tech, data, education, non-profit. You can see that there's space for everybody. Nothing like this is not for me. No, there's space for everybody. Sorry, I'm not able to really talk about them one by one. But once you get these slides, they are pretty much self-explanatory. Try to go through them, and So I would skip this slide because it's just me trying to say, when you're looking for a job and you see things like experience with this, familiarity with ESG frameworks, breaking it down to what they are actually looking for so that you know what to equip yourself in. When you get this slide, please go through it. It's very, very explanatory. I try to break it down as much as I can. Just read through it and make sure that you take notes of the things that I mentioned. I just thought to bring 2 young professional programs that are very, very popular. So check for AFDB YPP. I think it opens every year, September to October. So you can keep an eye for this year's own. Apply. IFC Associate Program opens November to January annually. Apply. By all means, apply, please. So should you do a master's? If yes, which one? Yeah, so if you want to be like me and say, oh, you would rather go through a master's, there are scholarships available to you. The UK is very good at that. Look around, Chevening, Commonwealth, DAD, MasterCard, find one. Look for a course in sustainability. I did the one on green, University of Sussex, Sustainable Finance and Accounting. Other schools are offering other courses. Please, by all means, do some research. Some of them give full funding, some give partial funding. You can do a master's. Master's can also help you with that transition. And basically, this is just a climate finance ladder, how it will go from analyst. You spend maybe a year to 3 years as an analyst and associate. You move to a senior analyst as a consultant, another 3 years, move to a senior consultant and a director. So this is just basically how it usually works. It doesn't mean that this is how it will be for everyone, but textbook knowledge, this is how you climb up the ranks as a finance person. I would skip this. This is just bonus slide, so you can read it when you can. So yeah, importantly, leave this session with a plan. Don't just say, oh, we have heard this. Do something about it. So sit down and ask yourself, among all the skills that I have now, which one do you think what are the skills I have now? Where do I start from? Which certification do I want to pursue? Set up Google Alerts on your LinkedIn. So if a job in that industry drops, if a job in that space drops, follow all these people I mentioned, people that are hiring. If a job, there's vacancy, you see it, pursue your certification, write your first LinkedIn climate finance post. If you've not made any post on LinkedIn, make that your target, write them, identify 3 target employers, start following them, start commenting on their page, then apply to an internship, apply to a fellowship, attend climate finance events, finish your certifications, build a piece of work that you can show in an interview. Reach out to people on LinkedIn that are in your space, just connect with them, have informal conversations and all of that. Don't just, let this talk just, go like that. Use this as a fuel and then, do something to do with it. This is just a resource pack. I'm not going to go through it. These are publications I gathered together for you to read, newsletters, intelligence. These are websites that you can go to, free courses. Please take advantage of all of them. I'm sure they will do you a lot of good. I want to talk about myself, but I already did, so I'm going to skip this. How I moved from my BSc in economics to working as a project manager, to my master's and my first job in sustainability as a sustainability analyst, and now my role as a sustainable finance consultant. So it wasn't linear for me. It was back and forth until I finally found where I wanted to be. So yes, the opportunity is real. I hope I've been able to convince you that there's so much opportunity in this space in Africa. There's a talent gap. We don't have enough people. And this timing is perfect. This is exactly the right time. So Africa needs you. All you need to do is to make sure that you're in a position to build for it. I'm sorry I rushed towards the end. I just wanted to make sure I get to the end of my slide. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Ruby. That was so detailed, so informative, very comprehensive as well. I've personally learned a lot because I recently transitioned as well from biochemistry to environmental policy and science. So that has really been helpful. Because of time, I just want to know if anyone has any questions. I've not really seen any questions in the chat box, so this is an opportunity. If you have any questions, just raise your hand. It's directed to Ruby or Femi, whichever one. Yeah.
So she said, how do we get the certifications? Sorry.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Okay, so there's one that I actually put towards the end of the slide. I call it CFA. Most of us in the finance field know it. There's something called CFA certifications, like the way you have ACCA, but there's one specifically for sustainable finance, which is CFA ESG. So you can start looking for, if you're looking for real certifications. When I mean real, I mean the ones that are recognized, that when you put on your CV, it could give you an entrance. You could start with CFA ESG, but if you're looking for more basic ones for those who are starting from scratch to learn, there's something I also wanted to mention. LinkedIn learning is very good. So on LinkedIn, there are courses, there are trainings for people in different fields. You can take advantage of that. I think for LinkedIn learning is free, and you have the course, they will teach you. They have videos you can watch. You can also use generic learning platforms like Coursera, like EDX, like Allison. There's those, and then your other desktop research as well. Another place to learn from, please follow all of these organizations. They have sustainability reports. You will learn much more from those reports than you will probably learn just doing random Google searches on your own. So yeah, please take advantage of that. CFA is a good place to start looking from. And if you do some Google searches as well, you might find some other certifications that you can take. There's a lot of them out there. Most of them are paid, but then you can also find free ones.
Okay. March, I hope that answers your question. Thank you. So yeah, Penny, over to you.
Okay, yeah, very quickly, we're running out of time, and it's just very important that we take note of some of the actions that we need to go away with. And one of the things that we need to know from this session is that the opportunity is now, and the earlier we begin to position ourselves for them, especially as Africans in Africa. I showed us a job earlier that, honestly, when I saw the price, when I saw the amount, $125,000 up to $125,000 in a year, even me in the United Kingdom wanted to apply for it. But on applying for it, or on clicking on the link, I saw that you must be domiciled in Africa. So imagine if you're in Africa, you're in South Africa right now, you're with the right experience, you'll be able to get that kind of a job. So these are the kind of opportunities we're talking about. It's very, very real. And the essence of this whole thing is that we begin to position ourselves for it. There is no need to feel overwhelmed. I can understand that some of us right now, with the things that our speaker has been saying, blended finance, and she's using the kind of terms, she also did not start today. So there is no reason to feel overwhelmed. Let me try to give that balance. But the truth is, you can start from where you are. There is no need to feel overwhelmed. You can start from where you are. So in terms of what next, there are a few courses as well that we've actually put on the slide here. These are very free courses. You just need to have the time to sit and to learn through it. And one thing about learning is this: the more you learn about it, the more possibilities that come into your mind. So this platform exists basically to show you what the possibilities are. And by our guidance and by our professionalism, we are able to point you in the right direction based on your peculiar circumstances. So it is just important that first you are aware. There's something called conscious awareness. These kind of webinars are there, they are put together, not necessarily, yes, the job will get you in the long run, but first of all is that you are aware that these possibilities exist. When you know that they exist, trust me, you are on the right track for getting the kind of jobs as the year builds on. So these are places you can start from. Both slides are going to be shared with everyone that participated or that joined the call. And definitely from there, you can just click on them, enroll yourself, and begin to do what? Begin to learn as much as you can. If you also need guidance, feel free to reach out. Our next webinar, next month, July 31st, we're looking at Africa's renewable energy market and the opportunity pathways. We're bringing a United Kingdom renewable energy expert as well to come and discuss what the market is. Honestly, I made a post on Instagram recently. Fossil fuel is putting many of the countries of the world, the countries that have oil and gas, is putting them in power. But honestly, that is an unfair advantage for those who do not have. But the renewable energy technology right now, everybody has access to the sun. Everybody has access to energy, at least the one that God has given to us. If there is wind at the back of your house and there is a wind farm there, you may not even depend on either NEPA or whatever the power holding company in your country is. So that is the affordability that renewable energy market affords us. I'll close with this on this part. The cost of capital in Nigeria, our speaker talked about the cost of capital. I work with local authorities in the United Kingdom here, and I run some projects, for community organizations. The money and the cost, the interest for community organizations to borrow money and say they want to develop a solar farm is very, very small in terms of the interest they are going to pay. Whereas if you are in Nigeria, the interest they are going to charge on you for building that solar farm alone is enough to even wreck you as a business investor. That's what they call the cost of capital. So there are several of these dynamics that we need to understand. And as you begin to take some of these courses, they are going to become very, very simple for you to actually grasp on. Afterwards as well, we are going to be sending you the feedback form. Please do well to fill the feedback form. If there are any improvements you want us to, or areas you want us to also touch that are of interest to you, please do well to do what? Do well to let us have them suggestions, and we can be able to do better on some of these webinars. As well, we have micro learnings. Some of these things you just need to learn them, and most of us these days, we are usually on TikTok, we're usually on Instagram. So one of the things we also do as Climate Professional is that we try to bring micro learnings. Micro learnings are little things. Those 2 minutes, 3 minutes you spend on Instagram, you can actually be getting education. So we have dedicated platforms on TikTok, on Instagram, on LinkedIn. Yes, our speaker talked about LinkedIn. So these micro learnings are for you to begin to understand at your leisure. So while you are scrolling on Instagram or TikTok, if you follow these pages, Climate Professional, there are several climate contents that are already on those platforms, even on YouTube as well. If you subscribe, you learn. And before you know it, unconsciously, you are picking up some of those big things that you think is, this thing is so big, I can't understand. But at the leisure of your time, you are picking up this learning. And before you know it, you're already speaking the language that you should speak. So this is in essence why we have these social platforms. Please do well to join, do well to subscribe, like, follow. You can share them. In the follow-up email that will be coming to you as well, we're also going to be, giving you some of these links. So do well to follow them. Just ensure that you are learning. Honestly, if you commit yourself to learning, it is a matter of time. You will become an expert in this field. I appreciate that the economy may be hard, certain things may be happening, but if only you give it time. I also myself, I've been in this space now for 3 years, and I've seen a lot of opportunities. I've seen people approach me on LinkedIn. Our speaker talked about LinkedIn, putting yourself out there. I've seen opportunities just come to me on LinkedIn. I'm just sitting in my corner of my house, I'm just opening my phone and I'm seeing opportunities. I'm not the one choosing and say, this one I don't want to do, I'm not interested, this is actually what I want to do. So there are so much opportunities if you commit yourself, and you can actually start from where you are. We also have a WhatsApp community where we have a little group of people that we are looking to guide step by step to ensure that you get to where you want to be in the long run. If you want to also join that WhatsApp community where honestly, we are committed to having that close group of people. Individually, I'm going to be having time with them and individually to map out a plan for entry. Our goal is that you are not just aware that there's a climate problem, but that you get gainfully employed as an African in the climate and sustainability space. That is our goal. That is the essence for the webinar. That is the essence for all the videos, the contents that we are creating, just to help you have the understanding. And with that understanding, you can make informed decision for what your future can look like. So on this note, we're going to say thank you for taking out time to join this webinar. Thank you for listening in. Thank you for getting the information. Please do well to reach out, and we're going to be sending you the slides. We're going to be sending you the recordings. We're also going to be sending you the links to the communities, the WhatsApp groups, and all the likes in the follow-up email. Please do well to respond to them. Do also well to fill back the feedback form so that we can actually do better on future webinars and events. And on that note, I think we will be saying goodbye and thank you for joining in today.